Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's session, we will explain you about defect classification guidelines. We plan to cover the topics like defect type classification, purpose and benefit of defect classification, guidelines for Causal code classification, and guidelines for classifying defects based on severity. Purpose and benefit of defect classification. Defect tracking is a critical component to the success of a software quality. In software development activities, the defect data is the most important available management information for software process improvement decisions, and ignoring defect data can lead to serious consequences for an organization's business. However, classifying defects can be a difficult task, yet the classification of defect is very important, and by examining the lessons learned, we would be in a better position to implement or improve our own defect classification and analysis efforts. The analysis efforts generally focus on any one of the three goals below. 1. Finding the nature of defects, that is defect type. 2. Finding the severity of defects. And the last one, finding how the defects are injected, that is Causal code, with the intent of using this information to characterize or analyze the environment or a specific development process. Defect severity classification. The testing fault records will contain 4 levels of severity impact. 1. Critical. It means defects that impact areas critical to the business and which stop testing of substantial areas of the system under testing. 2. Major. It means that the defects that are serious problem whose impact is confined to a functional area and for which there is a workaround. 3. Minor. The defect related to a minor problem in a single screen or related to a single function for which there is a workaround. And 4. Low or suggestion. It means minor problems which do not affect functionality. That is, the requested changes can benefit the end user in terms of user friendliness. Defect type classification. We can categorize it into 8 types. Category number 1, functionality. It covers the defects when there is a gap in translating the business requirements to technical specification, when code fails to perform the functionality, and if the defect is related to logic or misunderstanding of specification or incomplete coding. Category number 2, maintainability. It covers the areas of defects related to coding standards, guidelines, naming conventions, commands, and related to no proper packaging of modules or programs. Category number 3, documentation. It covers the areas of defects related to documentation like user manual, design, etc., and also cover the areas of incorrect header documentation and insufficient or incorrect commands. Category number 4, missing design or test cases. It relates to defects like gap in understanding, missed to translate some specification down the line to test design, and incorrect expected result of test case, etc. Category number 5, user interface. It relates to defects like inconsistent design, navigation issues, usability issues, broken user interface elements, etc. Category number 6, performance. It relates to defects like defects pertaining to performance of application, loading time, slow servers, etc. Category number 7, clarity missing. It relates to missing of clarity pertaining to technical documents like test plan, any input documents. Category number 8, redundancy. It relates to defects like redundant code being used, hard coding, unwanted alert messages, unwanted global variables or import statements, etc. Guidelines for causal code classification. Causal code can be classified into 6 types. Type 1, lack of communication. It covers the defects like defects due to miscommunication and wrong interpretation of client clarification. Type 2, inadequate skills. It covers the defects like insufficient training, technical insufficiency and inadequate domain knowledge. Type 3, lack of clarity on documentation. It covers the defects like missing of clarity in test cases and test design document, etc. Type 4, non-adherence to process. It covers the defects like didn't follow process, standards, guidelines and templates. Type 5, data error. It covers the defects like data not available, wrong data initialization, data mismatch, data not properly defined or dimensioned, data referenced out of bounds, data returned to wrong file or location and incorrect data format. Type 6, incomplete documentation. All documentation related defects will come under this causal code. Guidelines for classifying defects based on severity. First, we will look into application design activities. Defects can be assigned different severity ratings like critical, major and minor. Here we will explain using scenario related to design versus severity rating. Scenario number 1, requirement not handled or captured correctly. It's critical defect. Scenario number 2, incomplete or incorrect logic in the design. Then severity is critical. Scenario number 3, when any of the impacted items are missing out. Severity is critical. Scenario number 4, missing out identification of action entries. Severity is critical. Scenario 5, missing out stored procedures used. Severity is critical. Scenario number 6, traceability matrix is incomplete or absent. Severity is critical. Scenario number 7, algorithm is not optimized. Severity is major. Scenario 8, validation missed out. Severity is major. Scenario number 9, missing out or wrong data mapping entries. Severity is major. Scenario 10, unwanted session variables identified. Severity is major. Scenario 11, standards or checklist not followed. Severity is minor. Scenario 12. Typographical errors. Severity is minor. Scenario 13. Cosmetic defect. Severity is minor. Scenario 14. Defect on look and feel of the application. Severity is minor. Guidelines for classifying defects based on severity for code written in the application. Here we will explain using scenario related to code versus severity rating. Scenario number 1. Functionality incorrect. Severity is critical. Scenario 2. Functionality not handled. Severity is critical. Scenario 3. When any validation gets missed out. Severity is critical. Scenario 4. Wrong algorithm. Severity is critical. Scenario 5. Algorithm is not optimized. Severity is major. Scenario 6. Improper use of resources like connection, statement, result sets, etc. Severity is major. Scenario number 7. Unwanted session variables identified. Severity is major. Scenario 8. Cosmetic defect. Severity is minor. Number 9. Data formatting issues in the screen. Severity is minor. Scenario 10. Incorrect or incomplete commands. Severity is minor. And the last one is scenario 11. Standards or checklist not followed. Severity is minor. Guidelines for classifying defects based on severity for test plan and test design related activities. Here we will explain using scenario related to test plan and test design versus severity rating. Scenario number 1. Incorrect or incomplete test case. Severity is critical. Scenario 2. Test data incorrect. Severity is critical. Scenario 3. Expected results incorrect. Severity is critical. Scenario 4. Incorrect test environment specified. Severity is critical. Scenario 5. Standards and checklist not followed. Severity is minor. Scenario 6. Typographical error. Severity is minor. Guidelines for classifying defects based on severity for testing related activities. Here we will explain using scenario related to testing versus severity rating. Scenario number 1. Causes application crash. Severity is critical. Scenario 2. Functionality not handled or incorrect functionality. Severity is critical. Scenario 3. Expected result incorrect. Severity is critical. Scenario 4. When any validation gets missed out. Severity is major. Scenario 5. Defect on look and feel of the application. Severity is minor. And typographical error. Severity is minor. With this, we conclude our today's session on defect classification guidelines. We will connect again with you very soon. Thank you for watching our channel.